The mockery of Earth. In the vast reaches of the galaxy, Earth was nothing more than a speck, a tiny, unremarkable planet in the eyes of the most powerful races in the universe. Humanity had sent its ships into space, but their technology was primitive compared to the advanced alien civilizations that dominated the stars. The Galactic Council, a powerful union of intergalactic species, had gathered in their grand meeting hall to discuss the future of the universe. The council was made up of representatives from the strongest and most intelligent species. As usual, Earth was the topic of ridicule. The council members, seated on their high platforms, sneered at the latest reports. The Human Federation had sent out a fleet of ships to explore distant star systems, but the ships were slow, inefficient, and easily outclassed by the alien fleets. A large alien with dark, gleaming scales, known as Zoreth from the Varnock species, was the first to speak. Humanity's attempts at space exploration are laughable, Zoreth said, his voice deep and mocking. Their ships are old, and their weapons are nothing compared to what we have. They are no threat to us. Another council member, a tall, insect-like creature named Quix of the Jora species, clicked its mandibles in agreement. Yes, the human ships are like fragile toys in the hands of children. They will never survive out here in the stars. Laughter echoed around the hall as the members of the Galactic Council jeered at the idea that Earth could ever compete with the advanced alien civilizations. They mocked humanity's technology, their slow ships, and the human spirit that had not yet evolved to the level of the other species. In the middle of the hall, seated far from the high-ranking leaders, a human ambassador named Cassandra Steele sat silently, listening to the cruel remarks. Her face was calm, but inside, her heart burned with anger. She had seen firsthand how far humanity had come, and the technology they had developed was no joke. But the Council refused to see it. They would never understand. Earth is just a primitive planet, Quix continued, his voice dripping with disdain. The humans think they can conquer the stars. How foolish. Zoreth's laughter echoed louder as he leaned forward. We'll give them a few more years before their ships break down, and they fall back into the dark ages. Then we can take over their planet, just as we did with so many others. The other council members nodded in agreement, but Cassandra Steele, despite the insults and mockery, didn't react. She knew that the humans had something that the other species didn't understand, a secret that even the Galactic Council had underestimated. But that secret was not yet ready to be revealed. While the Council continued to laugh and mock Earth's ships, Cassandra's mind raced. She thought of the humans back on Earth, the engineers, scientists, and dreamers who had worked tirelessly to make humanity a spacefaring species. She knew that their ships might be slow, but they had something that the other species didn't, the spirit of innovation and determination. Far away, on Earth's orbit, a small human research facility was quietly buzzing with activity. It wasn't much, just a few engineers, scientists, and a young child named Alex. No one paid attention to them, just as no one took Earth seriously in the Council. Alex, a 12-year-old genius, had spent the past several years working on a secret project. In the dark corners of the facility, away from the eyes of the Galactic Council, Alex had been building something no one expected, a new warship. The child's designs were strange, yet brilliant. No one believed a child could create something that could rival the great warships of the Galactic Council, but Alex believed it could work. Back at the Council, the laughter was growing louder. Zoreth, feeling confident, turned to Cassandra Steele with a sly smile. You humans are so predictable. You'll be lucky to survive the next few decades. Enjoy your brief moment of glory. Cassandra stood up slowly, her eyes meeting Zoreth's with a cold, unwavering gaze. You may laugh now, she said quietly, but you won't be laughing for long. The council members stopped for a moment, looking at the human ambassador in surprise. No one had ever spoken to them like that. But Cassandra's words hung in the air, a hint of something more, something that Zoreth and the others couldn't understand. As the council continued their meeting, Cassandra left the hall. Her heart was heavy, knowing that humanity's moment of redemption was still a long way off. But she had hope. And it wasn't just her hope. It was the hope of every human who believed that Earth still had something to prove. Far from the ridicule of the Galactic Council, in a small, hidden facility, Alex was about to change everything. The human child's genius would soon reveal itself in a way no one could have anticipated. It was only a matter of time before the Galactic Council's arrogance would be tested. And the universe would never be the same. The hidden genius of Earth. Back on Earth, life seemed normal to the people in the bustling cities and peaceful towns. But hidden within a small, secluded research facility, things were far from ordinary. The facility, located deep within a mountainous region, housed the greatest secret humanity had ever known. A secret that the Galactic Council would soon regret overlooking. Inside, the walls hummed with the quiet sound of machinery, and a team of scientists worked tirelessly around the clock. They had all been part of the secret project from the very beginning, but none of them had any idea just how incredible the result would be. What they did know was that they had been entrusted with one of the most important missions in human history. They were tasked with creating a warship that could rival any in the galaxy, something that could stand up to the might of the Galactic Council. But it wasn't just the adults who were working tirelessly in this facility. A young boy, barely 12 years old, was the true mastermind behind the designs. Alex was no ordinary child. From a very young age, his brilliant mind had set him apart from his peers. While other children were focused on games and toys, Alex was captivated by the mysteries of the universe. His fascination with space started early. His parents, both renowned engineers, recognized his potential and encouraged him to follow his passion. By the time he was 10, Alex was already working on basic propulsion systems for spacecraft. At age 11, he had designed an advanced AI capable of handling ship navigation systems. But it wasn't until the day he found a rare, forgotten blueprint in a dusty corner of the facility that everything began to fall into place. This blueprint, part of an ancient human military archive, contained designs for ships that Earth had built in secret long before humanity even reached the stars. The designs had been forgotten for generations, lost to time as Earth's military shifted to other technologies. But the designs were perfect. No, they were beyond perfect. They were a forgotten relic from Earth's own past. Alex pored over the ancient blueprints day and night, studying them, tweaking them, and adding his own innovations. He wanted to create a ship not just for Earth's defense, but for its future. A ship that could prove Earth's worth to the rest of the galaxy. A ship that would change everything. Despite the Council's mockery of humanity's abilities, Alex had already begun work on what would soon be the most advanced warship the galaxy had ever seen. It would be fast, unlike anything the galaxy had ever encountered, and it would be armed with weapons far beyond what any of the Council's fleets possessed. Every calculation, every design, was his own. It was the kind of ship that no one would believe could come from such a primitive planet. The project, however, was not without its risks. Alex's warship was nothing like the slow, clunky ships that humanity had been known for. It was a new breed of ship, designed to be agile, deadly, and capable of maneuvering at speeds that would leave even the fastest alien ships struggling to keep up. Despite the excitement, there were whispers of doubt within the facility. Would Alex's creation actually work? Could they really challenge the might of the Galactic Council? The project had taken years to build, and they were running out of time. The Council's mockery of Earth's ships had already reached dangerous levels. If Earth didn't act soon, the Council's forces might turn their attention to the planet itself. One evening, Alex was working late in his lab, staring at a holographic model of his design. He zoomed in on the sleek shape of the warship, marveling at how the lines seemed to cut through the air, perfect in their symmetry. He tapped a few commands on his tablet, running simulations of the ship's maneuvers in space. Suddenly, a voice broke through his concentration. "Alex, are you sure this is the right path? The Galactic Council, they're huge. Our ships are nothing compared to theirs." Alex looked up from his holographic screen to see one of the senior engineers, Dr. Helena Rios, standing in the doorway. Her expression was serious, but there was an air of concern in her voice. "I know what you're thinking, Dr. Rios," Alex said, turning his gaze back to the hologram. "But I've seen what they can do, and I've seen what Earth's capable of. We can't just sit here and wait for them to make their move." Dr. Rios stepped into the room, slowly approaching the young genius. She could see the determination in Alex's eyes. He was more than just a brilliant mind. He was driven by a vision of humanity standing up to the universe's most powerful forces. But she still had doubts. "But one ship, Alex. Is that really enough?" Alex nodded, his fingers tracing the contours of the warship in the air. "It's not just one ship. It's the beginning. Once we show them what humanity can do, we'll have their attention. And we'll have a chance." Dr. Rios sighed, still unsure. But she knew better than to argue with Alex when he was like this. His mind worked in ways that most people couldn't even begin to understand. She had seen his previous projects, and each one had pushed the boundaries of what was possible. But this was something different. The warship Alex had designed wasn't just an advanced machine. It was a symbol that humanity had not yet fully revealed its true potential to the galaxy. A symbol that would soon force the Galactic Council to acknowledge Earth's place in the cosmos. Alex took one last look at his design, his fingers hovering over the final button to activate the ship's full construction protocol. It's time to show them what Earth is capable of. As the ship's systems began to come online, a surge of energy ran through the facility. The project was moving into its final stages. The Galactic Council had mocked Earth for far too long. Soon, they would see what the human child had created, and they would have no choice but to take Earth seriously. The accidental creation. As the final components of the warship were being assembled in secret, the project entered a critical phase. Every person involved in its creation knew that the stakes were higher than ever. Alex had made extraordinary progress with his designs, but there were still many unknowns. There were technical challenges, logistical issues, and doubts that echoed through the halls of the underground facility. Alex was determined, though. His mind moved like a whirlwind, solving problems and adjusting calculations with ease. He had barely slept in days, consumed by the thought of what he was building. His colleagues, especially Dr. Rios, had expressed their concerns, but Alex wouldn't listen. He knew that what he was creating was not just for Earth, it was for humanity's future in the galaxy. The most dangerous challenge had been creating the warship's propulsion system. The ship had to move faster than anything ever seen in the galaxy, but there was a problem. The energy required to push the ship at such high speeds seemed impossible to harness. The systems in place couldn't generate enough power without risking catastrophic failure. But Alex had an idea. Late one night, as Alex sat alone in his lab, a sudden spark of inspiration hit him. He knew it was risky, but he felt certain it could work. He adjusted the engine design, adding a new feature he hadn't thought of before. An experimental energy core that combined elements from the old blueprints and his own research into dark energy manipulation. It was a dangerous move. The core was untested, and no one had ever harnessed dark energy like this before. But Alex believed it could give the warship the power it needed to move faster than any ship ever built. Without it, the warship would be just another failure, lost to history. "I'll just test it," Alex muttered to himself, his fingers flying over the controls. The hum of the facility's power systems seemed to vibrate with the energy of his decision. It was the moment of truth. If it failed, the entire project could be destroyed. But if it succeeded, Earth's strength would be undeniable. As he activated the core, something unexpected happened. The ship's engines surged to life in a way Alex had never anticipated. The energy levels spiked beyond anything he had programmed. The entire facility trembled as the warship's systems roared into action, its internal lights flashing brightly. Alex stood frozen for a moment, staring at the monitors, unsure of what he was seeing. It was working, but it was more powerful than anything Alex had envisioned. Suddenly, the lab doors burst open, and Dr. Rios entered, alarmed by the noise. Her eyes widened as she saw the energy levels on the monitors. "Alex, what did you do?" she shouted, rushing toward him. I didn't mean for it to happen," Alex stammered, unable to tear his eyes away from the screen. The energy levels were off the charts, and the ship's systems were responding far more aggressively than expected. Before either of them could react, a sudden surge of power shot through the facility, and the ship's engines hummed louder than ever. Sparks flew from the power conduits, and the lights in the room flickered as the energy core went into overdrive. "It's too much," Dr. Rios cried, her voice filled with panic. "Shut it down, Alex. Now." But Alex was transfixed. He knew they were reaching dangerous territory, but something deep inside him told him to wait just a little longer. He was on the verge of discovering something incredible. Without warning, the warship's thrusters flared to life. The entire ship seemed to lurch forward, as though ready to break free from the facility and fly into space. The room shook violently, and the windows shattered from the immense pressure of the energy buildup. Alex scrambled to shut down the core, but it was too late. A blinding flash of light filled the lab, and for a moment, everything went completely silent. When the light finally faded, Alex opened his eyes. The ship, which had once been a model in the facility, now stood before them in full form, glowing with an eerie, powerful aura. The design Alex had created had come to life, but it was more magnificent and far more dangerous than anyone had imagined. Dr. Rios stared at the ship, her mouth agape. "Alex, what have you done?" Alex didn't respond. His mind was still processing the overwhelming events that had just unfolded. He had intended to create a powerful warship, something that could defend Earth. But now it was more than just a defense vessel. The ship had become a force of nature. "This ship, it's ready," Alex whispered, barely able to believe his own words. But there was no time to celebrate. The ship had activated on its own, and its power levels were rising dangerously fast. The energy core had shifted into an unknown state, and it seemed as though the ship could launch at any moment, even without the command to do so. Dr. Rios grabbed Alex by the shoulders. "We need to contain this. If the Galactic Council finds out about this, they'll never believe it." Alex interrupted, his eyes now fixed on the warship. "They'll have no choice but to believe it. We've just created something they could never imagine." Before they could react further, an alarm blared throughout the facility. The ship's systems were now fully online, and it had begun to move on its own. Its engines hummed, and the thrusters flared once again, as if eager to escape the confines of the lab. "It's time," Alex said, his voice steady but filled with awe. "We need to show them what Earth is capable of." The galactic response. The days that followed Alex's creation of the warship were filled with chaos. Word spread quickly within the secret scientific community about the unexpected power of the new ship. Though it was still in its infancy, it was already far beyond anything the humans had ever attempted. The news reached the highest levels of Earth's government and military, but the true scope of its power was still unknown. Alex, Dr. Rios, and the rest of the team worked tirelessly, making adjustments to stabilize the ship and ensure that its power wouldn't spiral out of control. Every day, the ship's systems were tested, and its energy core was carefully monitored. But there was no hiding the fact that this ship was something new, something no one on Earth had ever dreamed of. The Galactic Council, an alliance of the most powerful species in the galaxy, had long looked down on humanity. They saw Earth as a primitive world, filled with weak and primitive beings. Human technology was far behind the advanced civilizations of the galaxy, and Earth had never been considered a serious player in interstellar politics. But that was about to change. One quiet evening, as Alex was going over the latest readings from the ship's propulsion system, the news hit. A message from the Galactic Council. The message was brief, and its tone was cold, as expected from the Council. They had been monitoring the development on Earth and had taken notice of the warship's potential. The Council's message was direct. They would be arriving soon to assess the ship and determine whether Earth was ready to join the interstellar community, or whether humanity was still a threat that needed to be controlled. "They know," Dr. Rios whispered, staring at the message on her screen. "They know what we've done. They're coming." Alex felt a sense of dread wash over him. The ship was still untested in battle. While it had incredible potential, they had no idea how it would hold up in real combat. What if it wasn't ready? What if the Galactic Council came and destroyed it before they could prove Earth's worth? But there was no time for doubts. They had to act fast. The Galactic Fleet was on its way, and in a matter of days, they would be at Earth's doorstep. Alex and Dr. Rios prepared to meet the Council's representatives. They couldn't afford to let humanity look weak. The ship, still standing in the secret facility's hangar, was Earth's only hope. If they could convince the Council that humanity was capable of creating something so powerful, they might earn the respect of the galaxy's most powerful species. But it wasn't just about respect. The Council had a reputation for being ruthless. If they saw Earth as a threat, they could wipe it out without a second thought. Alex didn't want to think about what would happen if the ship wasn't ready. As the days passed, the tension mounted. The Galactic Fleet was closer, and there was no turning back. Earth's future would soon be decided. On the day of the Council's arrival, the hangar was silent. Alex stood in front of the warship, his mind racing. Dr. Rios joined him, her face tense, but resolute. "This is it," Alex said, staring at the ship. It had been a creation of his mind, and now it was more than just a tool. It was humanity's voice in the galaxy. If they don't believe in us, if they don't see what we can do, everything we've worked for will be meaningless. Dr. Rios placed a hand on his shoulder. "We're ready. Whatever happens, we've given them a glimpse of the future." The hangar doors opened, and the first ship of the Galactic Fleet entered Earth's atmosphere. It was a massive, imposing vessel, its sleek metal hull gleaming in the sunlight. As the ship touched down, the ground trembled beneath its weight. Several smaller ships followed, landing in neat rows as representatives of the Galactic Council disembarked. Alex and Dr. Rios stood at the entrance to the hangar, waiting for the delegation to approach. The air was thick with anticipation, and Alex could feel his heart pounding in his chest. The Council's leaders were known for their stern faces and unforgiving attitudes. As they walked toward the hangar, Alex couldn't help but notice the way they looked at him. They were sizing him up, evaluating him like a piece of meat, as they had done to every other species in the galaxy. When they reached the ship, the Council's leader, a tall alien with skin that shimmered like polished obsidian, spoke in a voice that echoed through the hangar. "Humanity," the leader said, his tone filled with disdain. "You have dared to create a warship. We will see if it is worthy of our attention." Without waiting for a response, the leader signaled to his team, and they began to inspect the ship. They moved with military precision, their eyes scanning the warship from every angle, analyzing its power core, its weapon systems, and its speed. For Alex, it was a moment of intense vulnerability. He could only watch as the Council examined the ship he had built. This was no longer just about proving that humans were capable of creating technology. It was about proving that humanity was strong enough to stand alongside the other species of the galaxy. Minutes passed, and the tension continued to rise. The Galactic Council's silence felt like an eternity. Finally, the leader turned to Alex, his expression unreadable. "You have surprised us, human," the leader said. "This ship is unlike anything we have ever seen. It is powerful, yes, but it is also dangerous." Alex held his breath. This was the moment. The fate of Earth hung in the balance. "We will give you a chance," the leader continued. "But be warned, the galaxy does not tolerate threats. Prove your worth, or face the consequences." Alex nodded, his heart racing. They had passed the first test, but the real trial was yet to come. The test of humanity. The Galactic Council's leaders had granted humanity a chance to prove itself, but the weight of the decision felt crushing. The fate of Earth rested not only on the performance of the warship, but on whether the rest of the galaxy could ever accept humans as more than a primitive, insignificant species. Alex stood beside Dr. Rios, his heart pounding in his chest as he watched the council members file into their ships. The tension in the air was palpable. He could feel their eyes on him, a mixture of disbelief and suspicion in their gazes. The moment he had feared had arrived. This would be their test. The council had made it clear that if the warship failed, Earth would be treated as a threat, and humanity would face consequences. What those consequences were, Alex could only guess, but he had a terrible feeling that they involved destruction. The council was not known for second chances. As the ships of the council began to lift off, one of their most powerful members, an alien species known as the Jetar, spoke up. His voice, harsh and cold, echoed across the hangar. "We will test your ship," the Jetar said, his glowing yellow eyes narrowing. "If it passes, we will consider your species worthy of further interaction. If it fails, it will prove to us that humanity is not ready to leave its pathetic homeworld." The Jetar turned away, signaling to the others. His tone made it clear that they were not here to play games. They were ready to see if the ship could live up to its promise. The air buzzed with energy as the council's fleet prepared for the test. "Alex," Dr. Rios whispered, her voice filled with anxiety. "Do you think the ship can hold up? We haven't even tested its true limits yet." Alex swallowed hard. He didn't know. The ship had been designed with incredible technology, but there was still so much they didn't understand. There had been no time to run full-scale simulations or conduct lengthy trials. Everything hinged on this moment. "I trust it," Alex said, his voice steady despite the storm of doubt inside him. "We've come this far. We can't back down now." The warship, still tucked safely within the hangar, was ready. They had built it with the best technology Earth had to offer, blending cutting-edge materials with Alex's revolutionary design. Now, it was about to face its first true test. Without another word, Alex and Dr. Rios boarded a smaller shuttle that would take them to the warship. The council's ships hovered overhead, their advanced sensors scanning every movement, their weapons aimed directly at the ship. They weren't just watching. They were preparing to strike if anything went wrong. As they approached the warship, Alex's hands tightened around the shuttle's controls. He could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on him. This wasn't just a ship. It was the last hope for humanity's future in the galaxy. Dr. Rios remained silent beside him, her eyes scanning the dashboard, her mind clearly racing. The closer they got, the more Alex could feel the tension rising. The warship was a marvel of engineering, but it was untested in battle. Would it stand up to the Jetar's fierce assessment, or would it crumble under the pressure? When the shuttle finally docked, the door hissed open, revealing the massive warship in all its glory. It was sleek, silver, and humming with untapped power. Alex and Dr. Rios quickly stepped out, heading toward the cockpit. The ship's engines were already primed, ready to take off at a moment's notice. "We're ready," Alex said, his voice a mix of nerves and determination. The Jetar and the rest of the council's representatives stood nearby, watching the warship's every movement. Their presence was a constant reminder of how much was riding on this moment. Dr. Rios gave him a reassuring nod, then activated the warship's systems. The ship came to life, its engines roaring to life in a deep, menacing growl. The ship's sensors blinked to life, detecting the presence of the nearby ships, calculating their trajectories, and preparing for whatever challenge lay ahead. At the council's signal, the first test began. A sudden wave of energy pulsed from one of the council's ships, firing a powerful beam of energy directly at the warship. It was an attack meant to test the warship's defensive capabilities, and Alex knew it would be no easy feat. The warship's shields flared to life instantly, absorbing the energy of the attack with ease. The ship's systems adjusted rapidly, recalibrating to optimize its defenses. The beam hit, but the warship barely flinched. It stood strong. Alex's heart raced as he watched the shield hold firm. It was working. The ship was withstanding the attack. He turned to Dr. Rios, who shared a look of cautious optimism. But the Jetar was not impressed. He raised an eyebrow, clearly expecting more. "This is not enough," the Jetar said coldly. "Show us what this ship can truly do. Do not disappoint us." With a quick motion, Alex keyed in the command to engage the warship's weapons system. The ship's weapons charge, a brilliant light building within the cannon. A pulse shot out, aimed directly at the Jetar's ship. It wasn't a killing blow, but it was powerful enough to make a statement. The pulse connected with the Jetar's ship, creating an explosion of light and energy. The ship rocked, but it remained intact. Alex's pulse quickened. He wasn't sure if the shot had landed perfectly, but he could see that it had definitely left an impression. For the first time, the Jetar seemed uncertain. "You may have potential, human," the Jetar said, his voice softer now. "But we will need more proof before we make our final judgment." As the test continued, the warship performed under pressure, showcasing its impressive capabilities. The stakes had never been higher, but Alex and humanity's hopes were slowly being realized. The warship wasn't perfect, but it was powerful, and it was humanity's ticket to proving they could stand toe-to-toe with the greatest forces in the galaxy. But the Council's final decision was still to come. Would they accept humanity's strength, or would they see Earth as nothing more than a threat to be eradicated? The answer was coming, and soon. Humanity's fate would be sealed, the revelation of Earth's true power. As the test continued, the tension in the air thickened. Alex could feel every passing moment, dragging him closer to either a bright future or a devastating defeat. The warship had withstood the first wave of attacks, and yet the Council's skepticism lingered. Each Council member, especially the Jetar, seemed to demand more from Earth's creation, expecting the impossible. But Alex wasn't just relying on the ship's weapons to prove its worth. The warship's real strength lay in its hidden systems, undiscovered by anyone except for him and Dr. Rios. The technology behind it wasn't just about firepower or defense. It was a strategy that would change the balance of power in the galaxy. "We're running out of time," Dr. Rios whispered, her fingers flying over the console in a desperate attempt to keep up with the ongoing test. "If we don't show them something impressive soon, the Council will move to dismiss us." Alex nodded, his thoughts racing. He knew it was time to reveal the ship's true capabilities. They had no other choice. "Prepare for the final phase of the test," he said, his voice steely with determination. Dr. Rios raised an eyebrow, but said nothing. She trusted Alex, and that trust gave him the strength to proceed. The warship hummed with a deep, resonant vibration as Alex engaged a system known only to him, the hyperkinetic manipulator. The device was designed to tap into the ship's core energy and warp space itself. It was still experimental, and he wasn't sure if it would work, but he had no choice now. "Activating hyperkinetic manipulator," Alex announced, his hands moving quickly across the ship's interface. "Brace for impact." The warship's engines flared to life, sending out waves of intense energy that rippled through space. The surrounding ships shuddered, and the entire battlefield seemed to freeze for a moment. A swirling vortex of light and energy surrounded the warship, bending the fabric of space around it. The Council watched in stunned silence as the warship flickered in and out of visibility. For a brief moment, it seemed as though the ship had disappeared entirely. Then, with a deafening roar, it reappeared several miles away, closer to the Council's flagship. The Jetar's ship was directly in the warship's path. This is impossible," one of the other Council members murmured in disbelief. "It's warping space itself." The shock on their faces was evident. They had never witnessed anything like this before. The ship's ability to manipulate space was beyond their understanding, an unprecedented feat that even the most advanced species in the galaxy had failed to achieve. Alex couldn't help but feel a surge of pride. They were finally seeing it, the true power of Earth's technology. It wasn't brute force or firepower alone that would win the day. It was ingenuity. It was humanity's capacity for creative thinking that had led them to this moment. The Jetar, however, did not look pleased. His cold eyes scanned the warship, calculating the potential risks. He wasn't used to being outdone, especially by a species he had considered beneath him. "You have impressed us, human," the Jetar said, his voice colder than before. "But the true test is not whether your ship can warp space. It is whether you can control this power, and whether you can harness it in battle." Alex's heart skipped a beat. The Jetar was no longer mocking them, but the challenge was far from over. The Council's demands had shifted. No longer did they want proof of humanity's power. They wanted assurance that humanity could wield it responsibly. The test wasn't over yet, and Alex knew that the Council was still holding their final judgment in reserve. They would not be swayed by a single display of strength. It would take more, much more, to prove that Earth could be trusted with the knowledge and power they had just unleashed. "Prepare for the final challenge," the Jetar said, signaling to his fellow council members. "If your ship is truly as powerful as you claim, it must survive this." Alex's stomach dropped. He had been expecting something like this. The Jetar had given them a chance, but now they would be pushing humanity to its limits. The true test would be whether Earth could withstand the final trial. Dr. Rios turned to Alex, her face tight with concern. "Do you think we're ready for this?" Alex swallowed, his fingers brushing the ship's controls. "We don't have a choice. We have to face it, together." The final phase had begun. The Council's fleet moved into position, each ship now surrounding the warship, their weapons charged, ready to fire. The stakes were higher than ever. Failure meant destruction, but success could mean Earth's place in the galactic community, something Alex never thought possible for humanity. "We have to show them we can control this," Alex muttered under his breath. "We have to prove that we belong." With that, he ordered the warship to activate its defensive systems. The ship responded immediately, creating an impenetrable shield that would protect it from the oncoming assault. The next few minutes would decide everything. The fate of humanity lay in the hands of one ship, one young boy, and one moment of unimaginable pressure. And as the energy beams from the Council's ships began to fire, Alex knew that this was only the beginning. The real test had only just begun. Earth's triumph. The air in the command center was thick with anticipation as Alex's hands tightened around the ship's controls. The Council's ships were closing in, their weapons primed and ready. The final test had begun, and the warship's survival depended entirely on the one person who had designed it. "Alex, brace yourself." "Alex," Dr. Rios's voice was calm, but there was a tremor of concern beneath it. "This could get rough." Alex nodded, though the weight of the situation felt like an invisible hand pressing down on his chest. The Council had made it clear, this wasn't just a test of the ship's strength or speed, it was a test of humanity itself. Could they control such immense power? Could they prove that Earth, despite its humble beginnings, was capable of holding its own against the might of the galaxy? The warship's shields flared to life, glowing with a powerful blue energy as the first blast from the Jetar's ship hurtled toward them. Alex's heart raced as the energy beam collided with the ship's shield, causing the entire vessel to tremble. The impact sent a shockwave that rattled every system, but the shield held firm, absorbing the blow without even a scratch. "First hit, successful," Alex muttered, his voice steady despite the storm brewing in his mind. "We're holding." But the Council wasn't going to give them a moment to rest. The Jetar's ship fired again, and this time, several smaller ships followed suit. A flurry of energy blasts came at the warship from all angles. The ship shook violently as more beams impacted the shield, creating a dazzling array of light and energy. Alex's hands flew over the controls, activating evasive maneuvers, shifting the ship's position to avoid a direct hit. The warship suddenly rocketed forward, its engines roaring to life as it moved at an unprecedented speed. The sheer velocity pushed Alex back into his seat as the warship's advanced propulsion system kicked in, darting through the barrage of fire like a predator in the wild. "Impressive," one of the council members whispered, and Alex caught the words from his console. The Jetar, however, remained silent, his calculating eyes fixed on the battle. The warship's shields flickered, the strain of holding off so many attacks starting to show. Alex knew they couldn't last forever. He had to do something. Something to not just survive, but to end this test in a way that would leave no doubt about Earth's potential. "Rios," Alex called out. "Prepare for the Omega Burst." Rios's eyes widened in recognition. The Omega Burst was a devastating weapon, a final line of defense that utilized the warship's core power, unleashing it in a controlled burst of energy. It was meant for last resort situations, but Alex knew that this was the time. There was no turning back now. "Omega Burst ready," Rios confirmed, her voice tense. "But Alex, if this doesn't work, we might lose everything." "We don't have a choice," Alex replied. "Prepare the shot." The warship's engines thrummed ominously as Alex activated the Omega Burst. A massive energy wave began to form, swirling in front of the ship. The surrounding ships, realizing too late what was happening, began to retreat. But it was too late. The warship unleashed the burst, sending a shockwave of raw power into the void. The explosion of energy illuminated the entire space as the Omega Burst collided with the surrounding ships. The shockwave was so powerful that even the Jetar's flagship was forced to retreat, its shields barely holding against the overwhelming force. Alex watched in awe as the warship's energy expanded outward, its power undeniable. The Council's ships, once confident in their superiority, now struggled to stay afloat. Some ships were knocked off course, while others suffered severe damage. The warship's power had left them no choice but to retreat. The battle was over. Alex let out a breath he didn't realize he'd been holding. His heart pounded in his chest, the adrenaline still coursing through his veins. The ship was still intact, and the final test had been passed. Earth had not only survived, but had triumphed. The galaxy had witnessed something it had never expected. Humanity, with all its flaws and imperfections, had just proven that it was capable of greatness. As the dust settled, and the warship's power began to dim, the Council remained silent. They hadn't expected this outcome. They hadn't expected Earth to show such strength, such potential. Slowly, one by one, the Council members began to speak. "Impressive human," the Jetar finally said, his voice devoid of mockery. "You have shown us something we did not expect." Alex exhaled deeply, but the weight of their words still hung in the air. They hadn't given up yet. They were still wary, still cautious about trusting Earth with its newfound power. But something had changed. The Council no longer saw humanity as an insignificant species. No, Earth had proven itself to be something far more powerful. The galaxy would have to take notice. Alex knew that this battle was just the beginning of a much greater journey, one where humanity would no longer be dismissed, where they would stand alongside the greatest powers in the universe. As the warship powered down and the battlefield grew silent, Alex knew that Earth's place in the galaxy was no longer in question. It had been earned. The universe would never see them the same way again. And Alex had just shown the galaxy what humanity was truly capable of.